The motto service before self is one of the strongest pillars of our institution. It is an ideal every student strives to live up to. Today is the day we commemorate those who have truly exhibited the essence of this motto through the course of their lives in the school. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We warmly welcome you to the most awaited ceremony in the school calendar, the Investiture Ceremony 2020 of Delhi Public School, RKP.
It's often said that the sky is the limit. To teach us to thrive, to make us believe that success can truly be endless. And to achieve that success, we need wings. Wings of perseverance, dedication, and sincerity. For these are the virtues that will lead us to where we aim and beyond.
It's rightly said that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. We now commence today's ceremony by lighting the lamp of knowledge.
To quote Theodore Roosevelt, the more you know about the past, the better prepared you are for the future. Today, we have amongst us one such personality who has always motivated us with the idea that all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them and to dream big, for the sky is the limit. Our principal, Miss Padma Srinivasan ma'am, will now share her thoughts.
Good evening, parents, guests, teachers, and students. At the outset, I'd like to thank our chairman, Shri V.K. Shunglu, for gracing us with his presence on this important occasion. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Ruchir Sharma, who is an alumnus of our school and is here as a guest of honor in this function. Thank you for being with us this evening, sirs, to witness this investiture ceremony of the student leaders of DPS RKP for the year 2020. My congratulations to all the student leaders of DPS RKP for achieving this important milestone in your career. All you need are wings, for sky is the limit, is the theme for this occasion. The theme is apt in describing the leadership journey that the DPS student leaders have undertaken in the recent years and reached their chosen pinnacle of success. As student leaders, you're the role models who must lead the school by setting an example with high standards of academic and behavioral excellence. As leaders, you have a certain power that your other peers do not possess. What is this power? It is the power to influence. Once you're given the badge, whether you like it or not, you have become a person of influence. And with this power comes responsibility. Once you have become a person of influence, your actions or inactions will have an impact both positively and negatively on you, your peers, and your school. And you have to remember that. Do you have the perseverance and the grit to stick to something even though you face obstacles and are feeling discouraged? Do you always finish what you started? Even with the right skills, only your attitude will help you through these when things get going tough for you. As a leader, you should know that at times you need to have the courage to admit failure and start all over again. Each failure provides the best opportunity to grow stronger. Growth can only happen if you learn from your failures. So, to be an effective leader, you must ensure learning takes place with every setback and every mistake. A special shout out to the teachers on this occasion for guiding, mentoring the student leaders, both outgoing and incoming. I would like to end the speech by sharing a quote on leadership by Jim Rohn. The challenge of leadership is to be strong, but not rude, be kind, but not weak, to be bold, but not bully, be thoughtful, but not lazy, be humble, but not timid, be proud, but not arrogant, have humor, but without folly. Thank you once again, everyone who is present here on this virtual platform. Your presence is highly valued and appreciated.
Head girls: Disha Gandhi, Nitya Khanna, Deepita Singh, Priyanshi Ahuja. Head boys: Manhar Bansal, Arsh Malik, Anmol Singh Dhaliwal, Sehaj Garg. President's Student Council girls: Vidhi Mathur, Vartika Verma, Manvi Singh, Kea Kalra Gupta. President's Student Council boys: Shubham Goyal, Dhruv Raizada Kishan, Sambhav Mishra, Naman Mansukhani. Hostel head girls: Vrinda Dahiya, Roopkatha Paul. Hostel head boys: Manan Rungta, Shobhit Agarwal. President Sports: Tanya Arya, Ishita Dayani, Anamika Singh, Utkarsh Lal, Chesam Izaz Ahmad, Bhavya Gupta, Shashank Agarwal, Saurav Agarwal.
On behalf of Delhi Public School RK Puram, we extend a warm welcome to our chief guest for the day, Shri VK Shunglu, Honorable Chairman of the DPS Society and Managing Committee of DPS RK Puram. Shri VK Shunglu is a postgraduate in history from the University of Delhi. He joined the Indian Administrative Service in 1962, and after having worked for over 30 years for the IAS, he became the Controller and the Auditor General of India in 1996. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 2019. Thank you, sir, for gracing us with your esteemed presence.
Nelson Mandela once rightly said, "The youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow." All students at DPS RKPuram long to be a part of the investiture ceremony. Today, we have gathered here to honor the youth who, through their collective efforts, grow closer to the horizons of success. We now request the chief guest to kindly administer the oath taking ceremony, followed by his words of encouragement.
We, the school appointments of Delhi Public School RK Puram,
We, the school appointments of Delhi Public School RKP
solemnly pledge to uphold the values and traditions of the school
solemnly pledge to uphold the values and traditions of the school
and dedicate ourselves to its motto of service before self.
and dedicate ourselves to its motto of service before self.
We will endeavor to inculcate
We will endeavor to inculcate
the qualities of excellence in academics,
the qualities of excellence in academics,
fair play in sports,
fair play in sports,
keen participation in cultural activities,
participation in cultural activities,
and complete adherence to discipline for the greater glory of our school and country.
and complete adherence to discipline for the greater glory of our school and country.
Let me begin by noting a couple of things which are unique and special to this investiture ceremony. First, the very fact that we are holding the investiture ceremony, even though school physically is not taking place. Second, that we have been able to revive the alumni issue and successfully invited Mr. Ruchir Sharma to join us on this occasion. He will be doing so live today after my speech from New York. Third, we are now wrestling with reality, and I think we are largely succeeding in DPS RKPuram because life must go on and we must make the best of what is happening around us. That said, the office bearers would still become and remain important, and I'd like them to think how in a world connected by electronics, their functions can become meaningful and they are able to do some of the things which they would have been doing had they been doing it physically. This is very important because things like discipline, things like peer association and so on are all the more important when everyone is isolated at home and alone. In that atmosphere, how to face up to the many challenges is much more relevant than in a physical sense when we are all attending school. And this is going to be a reality of 24/7, unlike 6.5 hours of school every day. I'm sure that the office bearers will themselves find ways and means of coping with this new reality. They will be ably assisted by the staff and the principal, and that DPS RKpuram will not allow itself and its performance to be compromised by this challenge of COVID. I take this opportunity of wishing all the best to the students, to the principal. We have a new principal this year, Madam Padma Srinivasan, and I once again welcome Mr. Ruchir Sharma. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Hamza Yusuf once said, and I quote, "Don't ever diminish the power of words, for words move hearts, and hearts move limbs." We now have amongst us Mr. Ruchir Sharma to share his views with the appointees.
We extend a very warm welcome to our guest of honor, Mr. Ruchir Sharma. Mr. Ruchir Sharma is the head of emerging markets and chief global strategist at Morgan Stanley Investment Management in New York. He typically spends 1 week every month traveling the world. Mr. Sharma has been a writer for longer than he has ever been an investor. At an early age of 17, he started writing for the Economic Times. His commentary has since appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, the Washington Post, Foreign Affairs, among many others. He has also authored 4 books, and he has a keen interest in wildlife and in international cinema, and attends major film festivals when he can find time away from investing and writing.
Hi, everyone. I think that we finally have got this technical link going. I'm really delighted to join all of you here from New York. As you possibly know that I moved to New York here nearly 20 years ago, and I've long wanted to come and visit DPS RKpuram in all these years, and thought that a year like this I'd get an opportunity to do so. Alas, not, but happy to join you at least via this link. Now, DPS RKpuram holds a very special place in my heart. I only joined DPS RKpuram in November of 1989, which was very late in the 11th standard. So the time I spent at DPS RKpuram was rather short, just over a year or so. I had a fairly nomadic existence before that. My father was in the Indian Navy, and he was also assigned to the Indian High Commission in Singapore. So we traveled to many places. I, in fact, went to half a dozen schools before I finally landed up at DPS RKpuram at the end of my 11th standard. I had the opportunity of going to some very well-known schools across, I'd say, not just India, but the world. Cathedral in Bombay, United World College in Singapore. And yet, when I look back at the 12 years, I can say so unequivocally that DPS RKpuram was the best school that I went to. It meant a lot to me, and my most significant changes happened during that 15-month period I spent at DPS RKpuram. In fact, I can almost go back and point out the exact date in early May of 1990. That was a pivotal moment, I would say, for me. That was the one moment that possibly my life changed when I was at DPS RKpuram. Until then, which was early in the 12th standard at DPS RKpuram, I was somebody who was still struggling to find my center. I had been to so many schools, had a nomadic existence, didn't have too many friends because every 2 years, We were forced to change our city. And also it was hard to keep up with friends when traveling around the world to these different places. And then I also was a bit low on confidence because I had been to so many schools, and every time you join a new school, you're always subject to being felt like as if you're on the fringe, a bit of an outsider. So that is the kind of mindset I had when I first joined DPS RKP in November of 1989. And yet in May of 1990, that one day something happened at DPS RKP, which I think forever changed my life. I was in school that day, and the economics teacher then, someone called Mrs. Balachandran, who was a legendary teacher of her time, she had asked us all to try and prepare for the economics class by focusing on one major theme to do with economic systems. I volunteered that I wanted to speak about capitalism. Some of the other students chose to speak on socialism, on communism, but capitalism is what I wanted to speak about because I somehow had this real belief that free markets and less government was the way to go. So capitalism is the topic I decided to speak on. I prepared a lot for it. I had a lot of interest in economics, so I decided that I'm going to give this my best shot. And I made a presentation on capitalism that day in early May of 1990 to the class. For some reason, Mrs. Balachandran was so taken up by the presentation that she went about telling the entire school about how highly she thought of that presentation. It's a mystery to me why she thought so highly of it, but for some reason she did. But what that did for me was incredible. The amount of confidence it instilled in me and gave me a reason that if I have to focus on something on life, this is it. It is economics, and it's got to do with my passion for free markets and for a capitalist system. So at that age, in 1990, when I was all of 16 years old, to have a teacher back you that much, where she goes to the other classes, the other sections, tells them all that this is the most impressive presentation, in her words, that she had seen anyone make, I think left such a strong impression on me. And after that day, I'd say there was no looking back. You know, like in school, when I look back, there were lots of people who were much more intelligent than I was, who had much better IQ, a better track record. But if there's one thing I was fortunate about, it was focus. And that one day, I think, just helped cement that focus. It told me that if there's something I need to put my entire energy on, it is this. And I think that that's what is very important, that if somehow early in life, you can find a reason to focus on something, I think it can be incredibly helpful. When I look at people around me, I often find that is a very key differentiating factor. And so from that day onwards, all I cared about was economics. In fact, when I would study for other subjects, my interest would ebb and flow depending on how much it related to economics or not. And that's what I pursued. So even when it came to the mathematics class, all I wanted to do was to focus on the very topics which were very relevant to economics, such as probability, calculus, those kind of things, and stuff that I didn't find that relevant to my economics courses, I really didn't focus that much on. So DPS RKP was very instrumental in the way that it allowed me to focus on what I really wanted to. I was very fortunate to find a teacher because the faculty has always been so good at DPS RKP. I was very fortunate to find a teacher who had such trust and faith in my ability, and for her to promote me at an age when my confidence was still relatively low and I was still developing a lot was very, very important. And then DPS RKP was also important to me in a second regard, and this is amazing, that I was in a section called 12J. And of the closest friends that I have in life today, at my age of 46, I would say that, you know, we have formed a group, or it's a group that I think I created in the subsequent years of 8 of us. 7 out of those 8 people in that group are from that section 12J of DPS RKP. In fact, the 7 of us go on holidays every year at some place or the other. This year, we were all supposed to go for a safari to the Masai Mara, which obviously got changed because of the virus and the pandemic. But last year, we went to the Amalfi Coast. The year before that, we went to Corsica. The year before that, we went to Ibiza. So done some great locations, but we make it a point for the 8 of us, 7 of which were from this one section of 12J, to meet every year. And that's what I find is extremely important, for you to never forget your friends, because it makes you rooted. It makes you feel as if some things don't change in life. It still makes you feel young. When we meet, we still play the kind of games that we used to play in the 12th standard, if not even before that. So it brings out an incredible amount of energy in you, and it's very important to keep such friendships alive. So DPS RKP therefore has meant so much to me in terms of both my career-wise. I was able to find my true focus, and also in terms of friends. DPS RKP gave me so many friends. Now, often people ask me about, what are the lessons of success and stuff? And I'm very wary about speaking such things because it makes me sound very self-important. A lot of this is, as you know, in life has to do with luck. But I think that if I have to speak about some things which have been a bit helpful to me, I think that I can try and point out a few attributes and characteristics that have helped me well, like over this period of time. I think that one very important part is to have a lot of self-discipline. So one thing which I do, no matter where I am in the world, and I've done this ever since I started working at a very young age, was that every day, no matter where I'm in the world, between 6 and 7:30, I will always work out, which is that I can go on these business trips. I can be in any country. People are setting up meetings for me. Sometimes the meetings involve important government officials, other company CEOs, and I don't care what the meeting is about. But in that time period, at least 99% of the time, I have to work out every day. And I just find that that is a very important form of self-discipline. And for me, it's a very important form of meditation that like to work out. So I run a lot. I'm still a sprinter. I still try and participate in World Masters Championships. And it's a very important release for me, that you can almost see so much of the energy in your head change after I have done that workout. And so much of the negative energy which is stored after a day of work that escapes your mind. So that is something which I find is extremely important to try and work out. The other small things that I try and do is I really believe in having an uncluttered mind. And I feel that the way to have an uncluttered mind is to have an uncluttered desk. So one thing I've always done, whether it's got to do at my home office or it's got to do with my office, is there's never a paper on my desk. I just try and keep the desk as clean as possible. And this is where I sort of believe in, even as far as the homes are concerned. I try and also design homes in a way that everything feels uncluttered, that there's very little paper, and it's a form of minimalism that you can continue. The other thing which I find very helpful is a sense of creative discontent, which is that I write, as some of you may know, that I write for the New York Times at least once a month. And I'm always sort of thinking about what's the next idea, and then very focused on how well that idea is received. And I try my best to make sure that no matter what I write, it finds its way into the most popular stories of the day at the New York Times website. So it's that creative discontent, that how do you channel that energy to make sure that every single thing that you write has some sort of resonance, does well, and then the ability to move on. That if something doesn't do that well, fine, you sort of think about it a bit, but just move on. So it's about just the key words that I keep telling people: is that just keep moving on, rather than thinking about what's happened in the past. And I also find it very helpful to have friends around you who have positive energy. This is the ultimate test I follow, for friends around me, which is that I don't want friends around me who are just going to flatter me or just say nice things about me. I want friends around me who have positive energy. And by that, what I believe is the fact that the test of that is that, does that friend around you want you to do well or not do well? As long as that friend passes that basic test, that that friend wants you to do well, it's a friend worth keeping. But the moment you sense that someone around you does not really partake in your success or in your happiness, then it is time to eliminate that friend. And I've been very ruthless about that, that if any friend like around me, if I sense even a bit of that attitude, I've been pretty ruthless about eliminating such people around me and creating this environment where I have people with positive energy. And that's true of relatives as well. I think that this is a very typical Indian tradition where we think about relatives and how we need to be really nice to relatives, and because we are born with those connections. And I apply the same logic there. I'm very happy to have relatives. I like to be rooted, as I said, with friends and relatives, but it's very important to eliminate people around you who you think have like any negative energy towards you. So that is something which I find is also key. And it's, as I said, it's about remaining rooted. One thing which I try and do, no matter where I'm in the world, is to always connect with my parents every day. Very key. Because remember that no matter what you do, your parents will always be there for you. And some of the other attributes I would say, I can go on and on about this, is that always be a good listener. Because like a real problem I find with many people is that they tend to be very poor listeners. And I find this in particularly true as far as Indians are concerned. In fact, a very close friend of mine, who is a very famous TV personality, gave me this really good piece of advice. He said that whenever someone comes to ask you, how is India doing? How is the country doing? How is the economy doing? He said the problem is that most Indians do not really want to know what your view is. They want to tell you what their view is. So the question that he said that he would always do is to flip it back to them and said, what do you think? And then you sit back and enjoy and relax while the other person tells you, even if it's about a subject that you are supposed to be an expert at. So I find that to be like an amazing attribute, but I think that it's something like to learn, which is that always learn to be a good listener. You gain very little by talking. You gain much more by listening to the extent that's possible. And, like as I said, that the true form of nationalism is about loving your country, about loving it to keep doing better, rather than being caught up in any false sense of identity or how that country is, doing in any sort of fake way, but to keep wanting your country to do better, to be critical about it, and yet to love it with great passion. And that's something which I do. That in the last 20 years or so that I've been in India, I've been in the US, I've always made it a point to visit India every quarter, virtually. Every quarter I made it a point to come to India. I've always been there for key festivals such as Diwali, Christmas, always been home, no matter what happens. So I know that I'm in a slightly unique position to be able to execute on that plan, but I think that it is something, again, worth keeping in mind about how do you remain rooted. So these are just a few things which I wanted to share with you about what I try and do to keep myself centered, to try and keep myself happy, to try and have an uncluttered mind, to be happy, with what I've got. And the other thing which I've always believed in is never ever think in terms of peer groups. I think that leads to a sort of competitive pressure, which is extremely unhealthy. And so therefore I've spoken about one set of friends, which is my, close friends from DPS RKP, but most of my other friends are all over the place, and they're all over the age spectrum. Some of my closest friends, in fact, have turned 70 in the last few years. In the last couple of years, in fact, I've been to their birthday parties because they've turned 70. I have some very young friends here in New York as well. So I think that the key is never to think in terms of what your peer group is or what your other person is doing in your class and stuff, but because that really limits your vision, that limits your horizon. The peer is your entire world. Think about never being defined by a peer group. And also the last point I'll make is, as you know, is that it is perfectly fine to have an unconventional career, that we all tend to think linear. Even I had so much pressure. Oh, after you finish your school, then you try and get to the best college. And then after you get to the best college, you try and go abroad to try and study. That was the typical path that I followed. And I was following that same path as well. I was very keen to come to the US to do my PhD. I was appearing for all sorts of exams. But on the parallel, as someone pointed out in my introduction, I'd started writing for newspapers. I started writing for the Economic Times at the age of 17 or so. So then what happened was that somebody at Morgan Stanley just happened to read some of my pieces. And I was all set to come to do my PhD in the US. And then that person, just asked me one simple question. Do you want to study or do you want to make money? And my answer was, I wanted to make money. So I gave up my plans to do like any PhD. I joined Morgan Stanley in 1996. I was 22 years old back then. I had an incredible start. I was very fortunate to do so at the age of 28. I was the youngest partner in the history of Morgan Stanley, and I moved to New York soon after that. And so I did not follow any conventional path, and I was fortunate enough to have a reasonably good time after that. So never ever think in defined terms that you have to follow path A, B, or C, or if something does not happen along that linear path, that's the end of the world. No, I mean, in terms of that, in fact, the best things in life, I've heard this from some very, very successful people, that the best things in life have happened to them when they have been forced to act or they've been kicked out of their jobs. That's when the best things have almost happened to them, because they've been forced then to change or forced to adapt and do something new and innovative. So I couldn't make it to do my PhD just in time, and something I think even better happened after that. So these are just some of the so-called life lessons that I've accumulated over time. I have a long way to go. I still have a lot of creative discontent. I still look at people around me who are much more successful, much richer than I am. And I aspire to do better from here. But one thing I can say quite affirmatively is that on most days, I go to bed feeling quite happy about life, just because of the fact that I have some very close friends. I have a great family, and I think that I'm as rooted as I can be, given all the circumstances. And once again, a very, very special thank you to DPS RKP for having done so much for me, for making those 15 months the most crucial months of my entire life. I think that, and I'm still so proud to see the way DPS RKP is doing and the reputation it has, and the new leadership that was on display today is a testament to the fact that the school has a long, long way to go in terms of retaining its success. I think that it's well on its way to remaining the premier school of Delhi. Thank you.
People make history, and it's not the other way around. Words have the power and energy to help and heal. Let us hear our school appointments giving words to their thoughts.
Dreams don't become reality by magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. When I was younger, I looked up at my seniors in awe of what they had achieved, wondering what my journey would look like. Growing up in DPS RKP has instilled in me a sense of commitment towards everything that I do. Whether it was losing a football match or fumbling during a class presentation, the teachers here have taught me that failure is normal, but we shouldn't let it deter our spirits. Now, as head girl, I hope to inspire all of my juniors to inculcate these values that will act as our wings as we reach for the sky.
I've been interested in robotics and maths since a very young age. Every endeavor, from a line-following robot to a hyper-trochoid simulation, demanded insane levels of dedication and perseverance. Even if I failed one day, the amazing community I was a part of inspired me to go back the next day with more fervor and passion, hungry for more. From assembling robots one component at a time, to writing code a character at a time, DPS RKP taught me that I should value my passions and beliefs more than anything else, for they are the wings that help us fly through every situation, no matter how difficult it is. The sky is the limit. All you need is the wings to fly.
With 6 hours to go and an entire project left, I learned to manage, organize, and implement. After all, that is the beauty of DPS RKP. It gives you a taste of the real world. It is in this diverse community that you find your home, among the clubs, the students, and most of all, the teachers. I am incredibly grateful for all that the school has given me, and I hope that each and every single student recognizes the vast ocean of opportunities available right at their feet.
Steve Jobs said, "Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become." I look back and it seems like a blink of the eye when I joined DPS RKP that put me finally on the runway and gave wings to my dreams to do what I love the most, that is, creative thinking through technology and leading by example. To conclude, I would like to say that keep inspiring and challenging yourself with all your heart and soul, for this is the fuel to your wings and sky is the limit.
उन ख्वाहिशों के पंखों को उड़ने दो, खुद को कभी सीमित मत होने दो। वो 9 अप्रैल 2019 का दिन था जब मैंने पहली बार DPS RKपुरम में अपने कदम रखे थे। मन में कई सवाल उमड़ घुमड़ रहे थे कि एक नया माहौल कैसा होगा, लेकिन उन सभी सवालों के जवाब उसी दिन मिल गए जब शिक्षकों ने दोनों बाहें फैलाकर अपना प्यार और अपनापन दिखाया। आज जब मैं अपने लक्ष्य प्राप्ति के पथ पर अग्रसर हूँ, मैं अपने गुरुओं को नमन करती हूँ जिन्होंने मुझे अपने सपनों को पूरा करने की प्रेरणा दी। मैं इस भव्यता के लिए अपनी कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करती हूँ। अतः मंजिल उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके सपनों में जान होती है। पंख तो सिर्फ एक सहारा है, उड़ान तो हौसलों से होती है।
When the wings of Icarus melted and he fell, the sun laughed at him. Every flight requires wings of fire and not of wax. Thankfully, my destiny brought me to DPS RKpuram, where my insatiable desire to learn and enthusiasm to speak, my wings, are being nurtured by my beloved teachers and a campus that makes learning natural. Discussing the intricacies of a socio-political milieu and agreeing to disagree have given me a fresh perspective to look into the system. Being appreciative of others is a thing I have come to value deeply. When life extends its limits to infinity, the flight also has to become n-dimensional. Tennyson's Ulysses shows the way to strive, to seek, and not to yield.
It seems just like yesterday that I entered Delhi Public School RKpuram as an innocent, anxious 6th grader, thinking, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. Somewhere along the journey, we all finally grew up, and this journey has been nothing less than a roller coaster. From annual day performances in the AVH to the last-minute frenzy of a final run-through, from group discussions to the nail-biting finish of a class debate, my school has given me a plethora of hysterical laughs, tears, and a truckload of memories I will never forget.
क्यों ज़मीन पर बैठा आसमां देखता है, पंख फैला वक्त उड़ा देखता है। हर सुबह स्कूल में आते ही मैं दीवार पर गड़े उन सुनहरे अक्षरों में काउंसिल का नाम पढ़कर ये दृढ़ निश्चय करता था कि एक दिन उसी दीवार पे मुझे अपना नाम भी चाहिए। चाहे वाद विवाद करना हो, सही का साथ देना हो, एक सच्चा अभिनेता बनना हो या फिर एक अच्छा इंसान, दिल्ली पब्लिक स्कूल आरकेपुरम ने ही मुझे ये सब सिखाया है। मैं पूरे हृदय से कृतज्ञ हूँ परमात्मा का, माता पिता और अपने अध्यापकों का, जिन्होंने मुझे एक संभव व्यक्ति बनाया। मैं यही कहूँगा कि न जाने उस खुले आसमां को देखकर मेरे पंखों में कैसा जुनून आ गया। उड़ान तो सब भरते हैं, पर मेरे हौसलों से जिंदगी में सुकून आ गया।
सूरज की स्वर्णिम किरणें जब पड़ती धरा पर, चहचहाते पक्षी मचाते कलरव, हौसलों की भरती वो उड़ान है। देखो जज्बा उन पंछियों का, छू लेते वो आसमान है पंछियों के जैसे मेरे पंख नहीं तो क्या, है बुलंद इरादा मेरे भीतर जो छिपा बैठा, है मुझ में हिम्मत, है हौसला मुझ में, अपने सपनों को पंख लगाकर मैं भी उड़ सकती हूँ। हौसलों की उड़ान भरकर छू लूंगी मैं लक्ष्य रूपी आसमान, सफलता मेरे कदम चूमेगी, कदमों में होगा ये सारा जहान, कदमों में होगा ये सारा जहान।
Susie Casson aptly said, "The language of light can only be decoded by the heart." Our Vice Principal, Dr. Renu Nayyar, will now deliver the vote of thanks.
On this special day, I would first and foremost like to extend my deep sense of gratitude to our chairman, Mr. V.K. Shunglu, for gracing the occasion with his presence. Sir, under your guidance and leadership, we would continue to strive harder to reach greater heights. On behalf of everyone at DPS, I would like to thank our guest of honor, Mr. Ruchir Sharma, for his word of wisdom, which are definitely going to encourage and enlighten our children. A very special thank to all parents who have played a key role in the success of their children. You must be feeling extremely proud of them. It is not so easy to get selected out of 900 odd students that we have in class 12. And I wish and hope that all these young leaders will show allegiance to the school and the post assigned to them. Children, we are really proud of you and we wish all the very best for your future. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Binu Chanan and Kaveri and all the students who have worked really hard in putting this program together. Thank you all once again.
May I request everyone to please rise for the national anthem.